Hey Internet, it's Jesse at ish.guitars. I'm here with Mike from Taylor. He's our sales rep. He's super cool, really smart. I know he looks like it. And he brought us some cool little goodies. We have them on order right now. We don't have them in yet. We're very excited. Mike, what's this first guitar?
Well, this first guitar is a Builder's Edition 324 CE. So we've been making our 324 model for a few years now, and that's been a mahogany top with Tasmanian blackwood sides and back. And in 2018, we started making Builder's Edition models that Andy Powers basically calls his director's cut.
Okay.
So what they have is they have certain playability features that make it more comfortable, easier to play, etc. and so forth. This guitar is a Builder's Edition 324 CE, so you're going to find some of what I call the trappings of a Builder's Edition with the beveled armrest. You're going to get a beveled cutaway as well, which is going to allow you to get access all the way up to the 20th fret without taking your finger off the back of the neck, taking your thumb off the back of the neck, I should say. It has Godot tuners, which are 21-to-1 ratio tuners. It has a silent satin finish, so that way if it's rubbing across your chest or you're rubbing your arm on the top, it's much quieter, especially for recording or if you're plugged in, no extraneous noises. And it has a curved wing bridge, so it's a little bit of a softer curved bridge, so it's less, I don't want to call it less sharp, but just more comfortable. And overall, what you're going to find on this guitar that's different than any other guitar that we make is that the top is mahogany, much like our standard 324 CE, but I'm going to flip this around and show you that the sides and back of this guitar are made of something called urban ash. Mm-hmm. Now, urban ash is really cool. It comes from municipal areas found around Southern California, and it gets harvested at its end of life cycle. Usually when trees die, they go into an area and get turned into mulch, essentially, after they get cut down. Well, we found this urban ash that is great tonally, and as opposed to turning it into mulch, we're turning it into music.
Right.
So we're getting a great sound out of a resource that was untapped before, also preserving and working towards a state of sustainability that we treasure at Taylor Guitars. And on that end, this guitar is also going to feature ebony fingerboard and bridge like every other Taylor guitar. And again, we are very big on the replenishment of ebony in the world. We've actually planted 3,500 ebony trees so far, on our way to 10,000. We own the ebony mill in Cameroon so that it doesn't get wasted. And that's another thing that just to add onto this guitar that adds a little more cachet to it. So I always say when you buy a Taylor, you buy the entire company, not just the guitar. That's just one more thing that helps along with that.
Right, that's awesome. Man, you're good at this. It's like you've done this before or something.
Once.
So something that Mike was telling me earlier about the ash that's on the back of here is that the company that harvests the ash, they harvest a bunch of other trees that are end-of-life cycle trees in Los Angeles and California, but they went through and they went, I don't know how many, but a whole bunch of different species of wood to try to figure out which ones sounded really good. And the ash just so happened, obviously it's been used in fenders and a lot of fancy stuff throughout the years, but the ash, for whatever reason, was just the most killer sounding wood going. And so it's kind of, I love to see when companies go and they don't just say, oh, well, hey, this stuff's cool. This is trendy, we'll just do this. But they really dug in and said, which one sounds the best?
Yep, exactly.
And it's not just like a gimmick or something.
Yeah, the greatest compliment you can give to any tone is to compare it to mahogany, and even further to compare it to older mahogany. Mm-hmm. And Andy Powers truly feels that this urban ash mimics mahogany from like 40 or 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So it acted like it all through production, and it sounds like it too. So tonally, you're going to get that nice mid-range forward sound out of this guitar. And then when paired up with the mahogany top, it's exponential.
Can I strum it?
Sure.
Sounds awesome.
Sure does.
Okay, guitar number 2. This is the Builder's Edition 816 CE. I'm sure you've seen it all over the internet. It's got the funky little sound hole thing going on here. And once again, Mike's gonna give you the quick rundown here.
Yep, so again, as Jesse said, this is the Builder's Edition 816 CE. Being that it's part of our 800 series, it's gonna feature a Sitka spruce top and rosewood sides and back. It's also reintroducing the Grand Symphony shape back into our line, now equipped with V-Class bracing. Anything ending in the number 6 is going to be a Grand Symphony.
This is the first time that the Grand Symphony is in with a V-Class, right?
Yes,
that's pretty neat.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And so now, just to let you know, the viewer, anything made in the U.S. is going to be made with V-Class bracing. So we added that to Grand Symphony, and we added that to Grand Orchestra this year. Now, as far as the appointments on this particular guitar, again, Sitka spruce top, rosewood sides and back. It's a Builder's Edition guitar, but it has some different appointments than your average Builder's Edition. First off, you're going to find similarly the curved wing bridge, chamfered edges all around, and the Godot tuners. That's almost standard on every single Builder's Edition that we make. Now, one thing that you're going to find is missing from this guitar, it doesn't have the beveled armrest like you find on many other Builder's Edition guitars. But in turn, what you're going to find that it does have is this right here, which is the sound port cutaway.
Ooh.
Now, what the
Fancy
sound
name.
port, yes, it is. Now, the sound port cutaway, what that's going to do for you as far as sound is by adding a second aperture off axis from the sound hole, what you're getting is a wider disbursement of sound. So this is almost at a 45-degree angle to the sound hole. It's going to widen the scope to the audience. And you heard it when we were playing it earlier. When you're further away from the instrument, it fills up even more of the room. So it creates almost like a natural reverb, almost like a surround sound type response. And because this is a Grand Symphony instrument, it's a little bit bigger, so it has a bit more lung capacity. So in order to put out the air that this guitar is pushing, having that second aperture helps along with that tremendously.
Now, when we played this earlier, what we did is we actually took our hand or jacket or something and covered the sound hole. It's really surprising the difference. With this covered, it sounds, you know, like you'd kind of expect a Taylor to sound, a Grand Symphony. It's a good sounding guitar, but once you open this up, it just adds a little bit of openness or clarity or breathiness, I guess you could say. It's kind of interesting, but it really just changes the whole guitar experience. It's not any longer your typical Taylor sound. It sounds different. It sounds better.
It's just a little fuller, you know,
Yeah.
and that's not necessarily something that if we put that on every single guitar we make, that it would make that kind of a difference.
Yeah.
Again, being that this is a Grand Symphony, a slightly larger instrument with a bigger lower bout and a wider waist, it kind of needs that sort of treatment to have that open up or that more of that breathiness because of the lung capacity of the instrument.
Right.
So.
Right. All right, let me give it a strum.
Sure.
Sounds great. This one might be one of my new favorites.
Yeah.
It's a cool guitar. Okay, as you know, we love our custom shop builds. We haven't had any Taylor custom shops in yet. This is going to be our first one. I just bought it off Mike. He brought it to us all the way from California, hand delivery, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's kind of as good as it gets. So this is a really unique build. It's really not a guitar I've really seen out of, you know, Taylor, I guess. You know, it's kind of its own model in a way, right?
Kind of is, yeah. A lot of the custom work that we do at Taylor Guitars are, we tend to try to make them as unique as possible. So it is a little bit, I don't want to call it off the plantation, if you will, but it is different than what you're going to find in our standard models, because if you're going to go custom, go custom. So this is a custom 12 fret. It doesn't necessarily have a model name. It just is a custom 12 fret. But most of our 12 frets are grand concert shapes, and the grand concert shape is our smallest standard shape that we make at Taylor Guitars. One thing that you'll find on all grand concerts, including 12 frets, is that the scale on these guitars is a little shorter. So our standard guitars, it's 25 and a half inches. On this guitar, it's 24 and 7/8.
Oh, okay.
And being that it's the 12 fret, we don't shorten it up further, we just push everything down a bit.
Right.
So the reason why I love 12 frets in general is by having that bridge in the belly a little bit more, you get a little more warmth out of the instrument that you would normally lose by having a smaller body instrument.
So that's part of the reason this is so balanced. We were commenting earlier, this is a really balanced guitar. And the other thing, obviously, the back of it, which you can show them, this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous myrtle back. Kind of with some cool flaminess and funkiness in there. It's
Absolutely.
a really nice wood.
Yeah, depending on how you're looking at it in the light, it's very 3D-esque. It's almost like holographic in a way. And this comes from Tasmania, so it's Tasmanian Myrtlewood. The cool thing about Myrtlewood is that it has a very mid-range forward kind of sound, kind of like mahogany, but it's a little bit of a wider EQ. So you're going to get a little more high end, a little more low end, and then having that bridge a little deeper in the belly enhances even more of that low.
Right.
So even though it's a smaller body instrument, you'll get a full range of sound out of this guitar. Now this guitar has a Torrefied spruce top, also adding to a little bit more warmth. Now torrefaction is a process by which we roast the top of the guitar, sort of artificially aging it, for lack of a better term. So putting that on a smaller body instrument that takes less energy to get to move, you have real complete, easy playing, especially for fingerstyle players. This guitar is almost tailor-made, no pun intended, for a fingerstyle player. But again, also being a 12-fret guitar, everything is a little bit closer. Everything's just a little bit easier to reach overall. Everything's right in front of you, so you have better precision in playing. But as far as the other appointments, this has a shaded edge burst finish.
I love this finish.
Yeah,
This
all
is
gloss
really
shaded
cool.
edge burst finish. It has split diamond inlays that are done in Ivoroid as well as Ivoroid binding, which also adds a little bit extra beautification. And then the tuners that we use have a really nice feel to them. I know it sounds really strange to talk about, but tuners need to feel good.
Yeah,
they just
I
do.
agree.
So a couple of years ago, we switched to these higher end tuners that have a really nice feel to them, very easy to tune, which is important when it comes to a slotted headstock guitar.
Right.
Because, and by the way, don't fear the slotted headstock. You do it once, you change your strings once, you know how to do it forever. But having those tuners that feel better and actually hold better tune makes it easier to access this guitar overall.
Embrace the slotted headstock. Now, there's some people say there's some tonal differences that come from a slotted headstock too.
Yes. What you're going to find is where the strings cross over the nut, okay, that's called break angle.
Yeah.
All right. If you have less break angle, you'll get less sustain. If you have
Okay.
more break angle, you'll get more sustain. So if you're, the best way I can explain it is if you're a Telecaster player or a Strat player, you have string trees on your treble strings.
Right.
That's artificially creating break angle. So it's adding more sustain to a headstock that tends to be a bit flatter. Now, if you're a Les Paul player, you have a much more violent break angle.
Right.
Okay, which is why you don't want to ever drop your Les Paul.
13 degrees or something like
Yeah.
that, I think it is, right?
So that creates more break angle naturally, therefore giving more natural sustain. By taking mass out, you're going to change tone a little bit when you take mass out of the headstock, but what you're getting is way more severe break angle because of that.
I
So
see.
whatever you're losing in mass, you're gaining back in snap and sustain.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah, so
Very
that's what you're going to get out of a slotted headstock instrument, whether it be a classical guitar or a steel string instrument, either one.
Well, it's pretty cool because you don't see this feature often on Taylors, so that's why I just thought it was an interesting, really interesting piece there. But
Yeah, you'll find most of the time we'll do a slotted headstock only on our 12-fret guitars.
yeah, I've seen that. All right, let me give her a strum, and
Sure.
that'll be it. Pretty cool guitars we got here today. It's been a really fun morning. Super thankful to Mike for coming all the way out here and hanging out with us for a little bit. Taylors are such incredible guitars. You know we love PRSs here. You know, a lot of people say that these are kind of the acoustic equivalent of that quality and consistency and playability you get out of a PRS from our electric friends there. You know, Taylor's a relatively new brand for us here at Ish, but we've been selling like crazy, and I think it's pretty simple. It's just because they're awesome guitars. They're built really well, and they put in that innovation and creativity like these pieces to make that happen. So, you know, like, subscribe, follow. Also, which one of these three guitars did you like best? There's only two here, I know. Which one of the three, what was 324?
Builder's Edition
Builder
324.
Edition Ash.
Builder's Edition 816 CE.
Yep, and our custom shop. Let me know what you think. Thank you, guys.